There was a time when I thought becoming better at conversation meant becoming more interesting. I thought I needed better stories, better jokes, better things to say. So whenever I was talking to someone, I was constantly thinking about what to say next. And that created a strange problem. The more I tried to have a great conversation, the harder it became to actually have one. Because while the other person was talking, I wasn't really listening. I was preparing, thinking, analyzing, trying to figure out whether I sounded confident enough. And eventually, I realized something that completely changed the way I approached social interaction. I stopped trying to think of what to say next. Instead, I started asking one simple question. What did they just say that I can build on? That's it. One small habit. But it changed everything. Imagine someone tells you, I went traveling last weekend. A typical response might be, oh nice, and that's it. But instead you could ask, where did you go? They say, Chicago. You ask, what was the best part? Now you're not trying to create a conversation from nothing. You're simply following the conversation that's already happening. This is called conversational threading. You take a small detail from someone's response and use it as a thread for the next part of the conversation. Maybe they mention a city. You ask about the city. They mention the food. You ask what they liked. They mention that they went with friends. You ask how they know those friends. One answer naturally creates another question, and suddenly conversation doesn't feel like a performance anymore. It feels like exploration. Most people think social skill is about charisma, being funny, being confident, having an interesting personality, but that belief can make you focus too much on yourself. You start monitoring your words, your facial expressions, your body language. You wonder if you're being boring. You wonder if they're judging you. And the more attention you place on yourself, the less attention you have available for the person in front of you. The better approach is surprisingly simple. Become more interested instead of trying to become more interesting. Because people don't just want someone who can talk. They want someone who makes them feel heard, and follow-up questions can create exactly that feeling. When you ask about something someone just mentioned, you're communicating. I was listening. I'm interested. Tell me more. That feeling is known as perceived responsiveness, the sense that another person understands, listens to, and cares about what you're saying. And there's another reason this habit makes conversation easier. It reduces the mental pressure of constantly inventing something to say. Instead of asking yourself, what should I say? You have a simple direction. What can I build on? If they mention a hobby, explore it. If they mention a problem, ask about it. If they become excited while talking about something, notice that. If they casually mention something unusual, follow that thread. You're looking for the information people naturally give you without realizing how useful it is for continuing a conversation. But there's one important detail. A good question can still fail if you deliver it like an interrogation. Imagine someone says, I started going to the gym, and you respond in a completely flat voice. Why did you start? Technically, that's a follow-up question, but it doesn't feel very inviting. Compare that with, oh really? What made you want to start? Same basic question, completely different feeling. Your tone matters, warmth matters, curiosity matters. Don't just ask questions because you memorized a technique. Actually listen to the answer, react to it. Let your voice naturally show interest. Because the goal isn't to collect information, it's to make the other person feel comfortable sharing it. And sometimes something else happens. You ask a question, and they give you almost nothing. Yeah, work. Nothing much. Now you're standing there thinking, what am I supposed to do with that? Don't panic, and don't turn into an interviewer. Instead, give the conversation a little material of your own. For example, I've been trying to get back into the gym myself. What do you usually train? You shared one tiny detail about yourself, then opened another light thread. Now they have something to respond to. But if they still give short answers, don't force it. Not every conversation needs to continue. Good social skills aren't about keeping every interaction alive. They're about recognizing when there's a thread worth following. and when there isn't. And this becomes especially important today. We're surrounded by distractions, notifications, phones, endless opportunities to escape uncomfortable moments. Someone is talking, and suddenly you're checking your screen. You're listening, but part of your brain is already planning what you're going to say. You're physically present, but mentally somewhere else. And that makes genuine conversation much harder. So instead of trying to transform your entire personality, start smaller. Create one rule. In every meaningful conversation, ask at least one genuine follow-up question. That's your habit, not 10 questions. Not some complicated conversation formula, just one, and then practice it every day. Have 3 small social interactions. Ask a coworker something you genuinely want to know. Follow up when a friend mentions something interesting. Talk briefly to someone you normally wouldn't. The point isn't to have amazing conversations every time. The point is repetition. Because at first, this will feel deliberate. You'll remember, find a thread. Ask a follow-up. But after enough repetition, the behavior becomes easier and more automatic. And something deeper starts to change. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is bad at talking. You become someone who listens, someone who notices details, someone who doesn't need to have the perfect sentence ready, someone who can stay present. That's the real transformation. The habit doesn't just change your conversations, it changes the way you see yourself inside them. And if you want to understand why this works so deeply, it comes down to basic human psychology. People naturally open up when they feel heard. In my PDF book, A Practical Blueprint for Social Confidence, Overthinking, and Effortless Conversation, I break down the exact psychological triggers that make people instantly comfortable talking to you, so you can make these interactions feel completely natural. You can check that out in the link below. So the next time you're talking to someone, don't worry about being impressive. Don't search for the perfect story. Don't rehearse your next sentence while they're still talking. Listen. Find the thread. Follow it. Ask one more question. And let your genuine curiosity show in your voice. Because social confidence isn't created in one huge breakthrough. It's built through hundreds of tiny interactions that gradually teach you, I can do this. And if you want to keep building that confidence, subscribe. Not because a subscription changes you by itself, but because it represents a commitment to keep learning, keep practicing, and stay in the game longer. One conversation, one interaction, one small habit at a time.